Hey, my name is Kristen Anderson. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the branch manager at the Ashland branch. And this is Read This. I'm going to go over the 5 titles we've most recently featured on our Friday Read segment. And while you'll be watching this in November, today is almost Halloween, so I'm going to go ahead and start with our scary book. And this is the most recent one we posted called The Only Good Indians. And that book is by Stephen Graham Jones. Marketing copy can be fun. I've talked about it before. In this case, the last marketing copy I read about Stephen Graham Jones was that he was the Jordan Peele of literature. And I believe what the marketing people mean when they say that is that he uses horror to provide commentary on things like race and colonialism. He is Indigenous, Native American. So he wrote The Only Good Indians. That came out a year ago. His most recent book, which does have a wait list, but if you've read The Only Good Indians and enjoyed it, you will almost certainly like, is called My Heart is a Chainsaw. It's reflective of kind of horror movie specifically tropes. I have not yet read it, but I'm excited to do so. Because I'm talking about Stephen Graham Jones and specifically Native American horror, I thought I'd also throw in a book that you might like called A Perfect Likeness. It is not one book, but 2 books. It's 2 novellas. It's by Richard Wangamese, and it is also Native-themed horror. Mwahaha. So that is The Only Good Indian. If you don't recognize where that original title came from, The Only Good Indians, that is a call out to the refrain, the very controversial refrain from Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little House on the Prairie that does repeatedly use the phrase, the only good Indian is a dead Indian. So the ellipsis, the ... in that title is implied, but it's an amazing read. So next up, we have Hostage by Claire McIntosh. This is a thriller, and it is, the main character is on a plane on a nonstop flight from London to Australia. And there is a hostage situation, and they have figured out how to manipulate her so that she is, while she is a flight attendant, she is being coerced into working with the hijackers. And you're going back and forth between the situation with her family at home. Her daughter is, her safety is impacted, which is why she's collaborating, and that very that flight, the kind of the continuity of the flight and the kind of the nonstop nature of how the action happens makes it a very compelling read. Claire McIntosh herself is a former police officer. She is a full-time writer now, and she started, at least her publication in America was in the kind of early popularity of kind of post Girl on a Train and post Gone Girl. She wrote a book called I Let You Go that was a fantastic twisty mystery, and she's written multiple twisty mysteries since then. So Hostage is a little bit of a departure for her. And then the other book that she's written that's a departure that might be worth checking out is called After the End. It's one of those books that looks at a decision point in a life and then extrapolates out what the life would have been like based on that specific decision point. In this case, it is a decision about a child who is catastrophically injured, and the decisions they make in terms of that child's well-being as a couple and what it does to them as a couple. So very different compared to Hostage and I Let You Go, but all of those are definitely worth checking out. Next, we featured Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent. This one is a thriller, kind of one of those ones where you kind of know that you've got some characters who maybe aren't behaving very well, might not be entirely likable, and are telling you up front that they may have, nefarious intentions on the other main characters. So I thought I would pair that, or also talk about a book called Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, which has some of those elements as well. That's a more recent book. There might be a wait list for it right now, but it has multiple characters who all might be out to get each other, and you don't really know who's really out to get whom until the end. And this one had a twist, and I'm usually pretty good at spotting because I read a lot of this fiction. My marker of whether it's good or not is, wow, I didn't see that coming, and I'm pretty good at seeing things coming, and I did not see that one coming. So highly recommend Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Next, we featured My Year Abroad by Chang-rae, and this one is a style of novel called a picaresque. And this is a style of novel that's been around for a long time. So if you read and enjoyed My Year Abroad, or are interested in exploring a picaresque novel, that would be a great one to pick up. But I thought I'd also talk a little bit about picaresque novels that you might also enjoy. And really the most famous picaresque novel, because it started as a form in early, it's more known from coming from Spain in like centuries ago. So classic literature, Don Quixote is probably the most famous picaresque novel that you've heard about. But if you're like me, know enough about it, but maybe haven't read. Full disclosure. So there's Don Quixote, or if you want to try something else, Salman Rushdie recently wrote a retelling of Don Quixote called Quixote. That one is, I can vouch for that one. That one's fantastic. Also, two classics of American literature that you might be aware of that are picaresque novels, A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy O'Toole, and Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. A picaresque novel usually features kind of an outsider main character who goes from episode to episode to episode. There's usually satire. He's usually kind of outside the system and maybe kind of in a lower class position to kind of the world at large, kind of an outsider anti-hero kind of situation. Usually there's humor, usually a little bit of a sense of the ridiculous, but that is the picaresque novel. And our last selection was a book called Nick by Michael Ferris Smith. And if you see the picture, you probably can guess that it is a retelling of The Great Gatsby. And we're going to start seeing a little bit more of this happening recently, and that is because, or recently, in the coming, like, this is the year where this was going to start happening. At the beginning of 2021, all books copyright prior to 1925 entered the public domain. And the biggest name book that happened to was The Great Gatsby. And so before, you might need to, if you were going to do something with the content of The Great Gatsby, pay a royalty to the copyright holder, but the minute it enters the public domain, you no longer need to worry about that. So we've seen at least two this year that I'm familiar with come out that are retellings of Great Gatsby. And Nick was the one that we featured in Friday Reads, but the other one is very different from a straight retelling because it has fantasy elements. It is told from the point of view of Jordan Baker, who, if you remember the book, there is a character who is a female golfer. That is the character. And it's called The Chosen and the Beautiful by Niveau. And it has demons, it has some queer themes in it, and that sounds like a whole lot to unpack, but it's really enjoyable, and there's a lot of good stuff going on in that one. But if you want to just read the original, you could also check out The Great Gatsby, which we also have, of course. So that's what I've got for this month, and we'll talk to you again next time. Thanks.